The NDP is getting ready for its future after the worst election performance in its history. The party will begin a review this month, going coast to coast to coast, engaging with and listening to members of the party. And the search is on for a new leader, as Jagmeet Singh resigned after the party lost 17 seats in the House of Commons, including his own. And of course, along with that, they lost official party status. For more this morning, we are joined by Emily Tammin, the facilitator of the NDP Review Committee and former NDP candidate. Good morning. Welcome to Your Morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
I understand this is a volunteer position for you. You've started it now in July. What questions are you going to be asking as part of this review?
So I think what sets this review apart from some of the ones that have been done in the past is that in addition to looking back at the campaign, at the party strategy leading up to that campaign, and asking, what could have been done differently, we're also going to be looking ahead to the future, so for a renewal of the party, because as you said, having lost party status and our current situation is dire and disappointing for a lot of people, but I think it's also an opportunity to really take the time that's required to rethink kind of who we are as a party, what's our role. Lots of massive challenges facing our country right now, both internally and from outside, and so thinking about what's the party going to look like, tomorrow, a year from now, and going into the future.
Some of the criticisms of former leader Jagmeet Singh were that he moved the party away from the core of the NDP and its founding principles. So with the leadership race beginning in the fall, let's start with what you're not looking for in a leader or in this party.
I wouldn't really want to prejudge the process that I'm just undertaking now by, necessarily weighing in directly on that question. What I can say is that when we engage with people in this process, rather than making recommendations on the future, what we're hoping to do is to develop a series of insights based on what we've heard from our members, from people within the party, from people who've supported us in the past, what's their vision for the future of the party. And I think the timing is nice that we're having a leadership race kind of coming right off the end of this process, because we'll be able to feed those insights into that leadership process so that the candidates themselves, who no doubt are going to have robust visions about the future of the party, can consider, the feedback that we've solicited from folks and factor that into the debate that I think the leaders are going to have on where we go from here.
Some of that feedback is already known, and it came up and got louder throughout the campaign process, and then, of course, there was the end results. And a lot of it seemed to be this return to what was described as traditional roots. But what does that mean for the party? And I ask because traditionally the NDP has pulled a lot from younger Canadians. There could be younger Canadians who aren't as familiar with what would be described as the traditional roots of the party. So I'll let you explain what those are.
Yeah, I think the party's values at the core are rooted in social democracy, and so social democratic values of a really strong and robust social safety net, anchored in principles of social justice and inclusiveness. And so, I think I don't know what we'll hear from people in terms of whether they do, in fact, think we strayed too far from that. There's a lot of, competing views within the party. And again, I'm not taking a position on it myself right now. But yeah, so I think we always have this kind of existential also question about what's our role in Parliament, for example. Are we there, to oppose? Are we there to, build a foundation to form a government? I'm not saying those two things are necessarily mutually exclusive, but I think that's sort of another piece of what people are going to want to weigh in on in terms of how we present ourselves to Canadians and what our end goal is in terms of the role that we play in Parliament.
We mentioned that you're going to be asking this review from coast to coast to coast, and when we go back and look at the election results from election night, you could see where support was starting to drop off. We saw key support dropping in Quebec. We saw it happen in BC. What are you asking people across the country about what they want to see in this new reformation of the party and a new leader? Like, what specifically are you asking them?
Honestly, I think a lot of it is going to be relatively open-ended, because I want to hear from people just kind of what their views are about what went wrong in the campaign, what worked in the campaign. But remember, the role of a political party in a democracy is not just about election campaigns. And so I expect we're going to hear a lot of views as well about what could be done differently between campaigns. And we're hearing a lot about also returning to a real party of grassroots movement organizing, and how can we create space, for more people to see themselves reflected in the party, and what can we do to really build support and momentum between campaigns, as well as within the kind of confines of an election campaign. So really interested to just hear what people's assessment is of what went wrong in the campaign and before the campaign, what worked, because I expect that we may hear some positive things. I mean, the party had an enormous success in Parliament in terms of on a policy level. And so what was it about the campaign, about the communication during that time that didn't translate for voters, such that there wasn't the kind of reward for playing a pivotal role in really like moving very forward towards fulfilling Tommy Douglas's promise of a truly universal healthcare system, so with dental care and pharmacare.
Yeah.
And so, want to hear from people about, what could or should have been done differently, and then what we do to build for the future.
I'm fascinated to read those results, because I've had the same questions. You had so much success in Parliament. You were able to do things that even at the height of its support in the last couple of decades did not translate, obviously, in this last election in the way that you would have hoped. So I appreciate your time that you're volunteering this summer to get it done. The review results will be out in the fall. Emily Tamman, thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you so much for having me.
If you like that video, make sure to subscribe to the Your Morning YouTube feed, where you can find all kinds of new content posted every weekday morning.